Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. Hello, Manfred. It does look like you were first in the chat room, yes. Happy to have you here. And I see Nils is there as well. Hello. So, and Maurice is here too. Hello, Maurice. Oh, okay, sorry. Manfred was the first to comment on the chat. Not saying anything. Fair enough. Fair enough. I hope you're all doing well tonight. I'm doing okay. It was a good weekend of not doing much at all. Pretty much the same here in Scotland in terms of COVID-19 stuff. We're doing a tiering system, so we're currently, my area is in tier 2, meaning that we're not in any high level of restrictions, but generally just trying to stick to ourselves and stay safe. COVID is going down in... Oh, is it? Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear it. Hello, Code Monkey. Welcome along. I'm glad to hear that it's going down where you are, Maurice. Obviously, there's been good news about possible vaccines. I was reading about at least 2 or 3 different ones. The one from the UK is doesn't need to be kept at the same low temperature as the other one, the Pfizer one. So there's some good stuff happening basically. So it's all good. Obviously, still a fair ways out before everyone gets one, but fingers crossed. Is that Edge browser in the background? No, this is Chrome. I'm in Chrome. Fairly sure it's Chrome. Yeah, it is. The reason I have this up, Manfred, and the reason I see that your GIF is here, I wanted to make everyone aware, if you're not already aware, we Chocolatey is we are having a 12 days of Chocolatey event starting. I'm not sure if it's actually been announced yet, but it'll be 12 consecutive days of 12 consecutive days of Chocolatey content on different topics, talking about different things. So if you're interested, there is a introduction announcement event happening on Twitch tomorrow, 12:30 CST. I don't do time zones. When is 12:30 CST? 12:30 CST to UTC is 6:30 tomorrow evening, my time, by the look of it. So definitely check out that if you haven't already. There's a new Twitch account, so 19:30 CET, 12 and 18:30. Yes, so we're currently back to UTC. So if you haven't already, make sure that you follow the Chocolatey Software user on Twitch, and you'll get notifications about when we go live, etc. So I just wanted to mention that so that everyone's aware of it. The terms of what we're going to be talking about each day, it's starting to be solidified. So there's some interesting topics. So be sure to, and one of the days is going to be the upcoming webinar. So myself and Joel are doing a webinar on scheduling deployments and using semi-connected environments within Chocolatey Central Management. So if you wanted to come along and listen to that, then there's a registration link on the homepage of Chocolatey there. So that is what I wanted to talk about, just to get everyone aware, make sure that you're all on the same page. But in terms of what we're looking at tonight, I'm going to be continuing to look at the Cake extension for VS Code. Thanks in no small part to Nils, who is in the chat room. We're getting very, very close to having a releasable thing. So I'm hoping that tonight we can thrash out the last remaining parts and get to somewhere where we can actually ship this thing. So all the pieces are in play now. There are 2 open pull requests. one of which is from Nils for adding in support for the .NET Global tool in terms of debugging. So that's going to be the main focus of tonight's stream. There's another pull request which was created by Dependabot, but Nils has suggested that potentially we don't need this because we aren't actually using NPM in the build process. So the reason that that's kind of come about is that what I believe has happened is that when we first created this extension for Visual Studio Code, we would have generated it from the base template, and I suspect that what's happened is that the base dependencies have been pretty much left in play. So as VS Code extension development changed, I suspect that some of these base dependencies haven't been moved. So there's potentially things in here that we aren't actually using, and that's what I said to Nils in the comment on the PR. So if we can remove a development dependency that we don't need, obviously that is good, because it means that we haven't got any excess baggage that we don't need. So I think Nils was going to be going to look into that a bit. That's what I took from his comment here. So he would wait to check and see how we got on with that. Remove them all and check what you're missing. So that's one approach. Part of the problem I have is that this is not an ecosystem that I particularly deal with, aside from in a few small cases. I know enough Node and TypeScript to be dangerous, but when it comes to knowing what can and can't be used, so obviously we could just delete all of these, but things would break. Some of these I know that we are using, but yeah, I hadn't even thought about the NPM one and whether it's actually needed or not. So I was going to leave that up to Nils to have a look into it and dig into that and see what was going on there. But the main pull request that we're going to be looking at tonight, unless there are any squirrels that come up and we end up going down a little rabbit hole looking at things, the main focus of tonight is going to be Nils's PR here and having a look at that, seeing what still needs to be done, and then if everyone's happy, we can get that pulled in, merged in, and like I say, based on what's left, we go up to the issues here and look at the milestones. I'll come back to the comments in the chat in a sec. There are 3 issues remaining on the 1.0.0 release. One of these is just something I need to remember to do. You can't see it from my head. Update Marketplace API token. I just need to remember to do that so that we can actually push the artifact to the marketplace. So that's there as a reminder for me to do. And I think the PR in question kind of covers both of these. So we need to look through the PR, see if it addresses both of the issues that have been raised here, and if they are, then I think we can ship it. So let's have a quick look in the chat, and then we'll see where we are, and then we'll start reviewing this PR. So Nils is saying, so dep check. So what is dep check? What's that? Is that a tool that I can use? What is dep check? Let's have a little Google. Google's my friend. Dep check npm. So let's have a little look. Come on, guys, give the man some C#. Make him. If only it was that simple, eh? In fairness, I mean, from someone who's done both Visual Studio extension development with C# and Visual Studio Code development with TypeScript, it's a lot easier to do things in VS Code as opposed to Visual Studio. So there's a lot to be said for it. Yes, I noticed that, Maurice. Thank you for that. I was following that. I sent a message to Paul. Paul had reached out to me over on Twitter to say that it failed. So I was following along on that, and I've started a conversation internally to decide what we can do about the general package verifier. So lots of conversations to be had about that. But yes, I did follow up on that. Thank you very much. Nils, so you've done Visual Studio development as well, okay, or Visual Studio Extension development, and the documentation is, I think it is as well. Yeah, I mean, I know that there is lots of documentation, but I do feel that the documentation for VS Code is better. But yes, so depth check is a tool for analyzing the dependencies in a project to see how each dependency is used, which dependencies are useless, and which dependencies are missing. Oh, interesting. Okay, so you would install it globally, and then you would run, or simply using. Okay, no, I would be doing that one, and then requires no greater than 10. I would have that, and then from there, what do I actually do? Usage, dependency check with the directory, so it could be the one that I'm in, and then it would just go and check things. Interesting. Okay, so that's good. I didn't know about that, so that's something to think about in the future. I didn't know it had something like that. Published 14 days ago. Interesting. Let's go over here then, and let's stick a star on this so that I remember about it later. Funny thing, you need npm to install depth check to check if npm. It's quite meta, that, isn't it? That's quite meta. I love it. So, in fairness, that would be npm would need to be installed globally. So I have npm installed globally, but this is a check to see whether npm is required as a local dependency within my node modules folder within the package, within the repository. So, but it is quite funny that, yeah. So the one thing I did want to mention, if I just start debugging this, one of the things that Nils did add over the last week was the concept of outline as well as breadcrumbs for a cake file. So if I let this get started and we see the extension get activated, what we should find now in my outline window here is that it has two things. It has both context and it has tasks. So I get a list of tasks that I can see within the cake script. So I can click on one of these and it'll take me to the task in question. And I've also got context in terms of where the setup is, where the teardown is, and where the run target is. So Nils has been able to identify using regular expressions. At the minute, using regular expressions to identify that hierarchy of elements within the page. And it also is available here as a breadcrumb, so you can click on the same sort of code path as a breadcrumb as well as an outline here. So one of the things that we should be able to improve with this over time is using the Cake language server. So rather than using regex to extract out the pieces of information, we should be able to use the Cake language server to provide some of that more detailed information, to provide the document symbol provider, which is the terminology that's used within VS Code, so it can actually find those things. And yes, no, sorry, you're quite right. I should point this out. You're quite right, Nils. So if we go, let me find the person's handle. So originally there was a pull request for this to add this functionality that got opened up a long time ago, like a long time ago. I don't think it was a pull request with that number, was it? Is it this one? Yes. So this person, who's has it got his name? Thomas. So Thomas, back in 2018, provided a PR that provided this functionality, and it kind of got, for one reason or another, it got left. Didn't do anything with it, mainly because I'd spoken with Martin Bjorkstrom about potentially having LSP up and running to provide more granularity, but bottom line, it didn't happen. But there was a discussion between Thomas and Nils a week ago, and Thomas came back and said, basically, feel free to go and update it. So that's exactly what Nils did. He updated the PR, rebased it, and provided the functionality into the current code base. So thank you both to Thomas and Nils for doing that. So the question from Maurice there is, so only an LSP client is required. So No. So let's. So in terms of what you're familiar with, Maurice, we've played with creating an LSP server for Chocolatey. So if you have a Chocolatey new spec file, we, me, you, Kim, and whoever else was working on it, we created an LSP client within the Chocolatey VS Code extension to talk to the Chocolatey language server, which was running as a server in the background. And we were able to then provide warnings, errors, etc. onto the Chocolatey new spec file to save when things were broken. Now, the way that Cake scripts work within Visual Studio Code is that we are piggybacking on the language server that already exists within VS Code. So the language server that already exists is the OmniSharp extension, which is installed by default within Visual Studio Code. So what Martin did is he created a module for OmniSharp, which allows him to provide the additional DSL information that for the makeup of what the Cake script is. And he then piggybacks on OmniSharp to provide that information back. So that's what would give us the ability to see that there was a squiggly when there's, I haven't got it running, so I can't show you it, to give you a red squiggly when there wasn't a semicolon at the end of that line. So what Martin has been working on in the background is a new implementation of a Cake-specific language server. So in the same way that for Chocolatey, we have that Chocolatey language server, we would have a dedicated language server for Cake going forward. Now, what that would give us to do, what it would then allow us to do, is that the language server would be able to provide us the information about where a task starts, or what tasks are in a script, or many scripts, or what functions are being used, what methods are being used, etc. All of that detailed information would come from the Cake language server. So rather than at the minute, essentially doing a regex across the entire script to find out the different parts of the code, we would get that from what is essentially the abstract syntax tree of the Cake script, and that would come back from the language server. So we don't have that Cake language server at the minute, but we will at some point. So ain't that the same as I'm suggesting? So yes, so once we have Cake language server, once we have the Cake language server in the background, we will need to add into this Cake extension a LSP client to communicate with that Cake language server once it's up and running. But at the minute, we don't need that because we're just utilizing Cake.bakery bundles itself as a module within OmniSharp. So we get that information from OmniSharp. So that's why when I have a Cake script running here, I can go down here and I can say, maybe it's up here. If I go into OmniSharp, I can say select project. So if I have multiple projects open here, if I had a Visual Studio solution open at this point as well, OmniSharp would be trying to provide IntelliSense and suggestions for both the Visual Studio solution and the Cake project. So by separating ourselves from that, it would mean that we would be able to get IntelliSense for both the Visual Studio solution and Cake, but they're operating two different sections of Visual Studio Code. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, feel free to ask. But that's where we're trying to get to. Like I say, that additional information, or maybe richer information is a better way to say it, would come from the abstract syntax tree that the language server is maintaining for us, rather than applying a regex across the entire thing to find the different points of interest within the Cake script. So that's where we want to get to, but the outline that was provided in this pull request was enough to get started with, I think, because it like I say, it provides us ability to quite quickly jump between different sections of the script. So it's I really like it. I think it makes a lot of sense. So I was happy to get that merged in. So if we go back and start looking at Nils, we've had this conversation before, isn't it? Is it Nils's PR? let's start taking a look at what's happening. Now I do have it checked out, so I did do that before we started the stream. So I have the debug core tool branch that Nils created checked out. So I have the code ready to play with. And I maybe want to start there. So if I run this Visual Studio Code extension again in the development host, I want to see what's going to happen. So let's start at the beginning and let's just clear this out a little bit. So I'm going to delete that. Don't think we need that anymore. I'm going to delete my tools folder and I'm going to delete the VS Code folder. So it's just Nils, not Nils's. Right, okay, point. Try and remember that. I probably won't, but I will try. I'm going to delete this launch.json as well. And my understanding from reading the description of the PR is that if I go in and press F1 and I select Cake and I say install debug dependencies, I think I should get a prompt. So previously we would have just downloaded and installed the cake.core CLR package, which is the one that provides the ability to debug. But I think what's going to happen is if I click the install debug dependencies link, I'll hit a breakpoint because I had that from a previous execution. But what I think we should get, if we go back, is we've now got a prompt. So do we want to install debug dependencies for using cake.tool, or whether we want to use it for cake.core CLR? So let's go down the path that is cake.core CLR to start with, just to see what that does. So I'm going to click on that, and we'll see that it's created a tools folder. And I think what it's going to put into there, or it should still do this, is that should download and install cake.core CLR, which it did. Good, and we've got a prompt that says cake debug dependencies correctly downloaded. Beautiful. Love it so far, right? But if I were to do that again and say, let's just test that code path. So let's get rid of that. Let's do cake.core CLR again, and we should get a prompt saying cake.core CLR package has already been installed. Great. So let's do this with cake.tool instead. I love your thinking, Maurice. So cake.tool is already installed globally. Now that's because I have cake.tool installed. That's one of the things I did check before the stream as well. So if I go up to here and I do .NET tool list global, then we'll see that I have cake.tool installed globally, and it's installed with version 38.5. So this did the right thing because it told me it was already installed. So let's do this .NET tool uninstall cake.tool globally. So now if we run that, we shouldn't have it. Okay, so far so good. So if I come back into here and I say install debug dependencies, so I was coming to that, Maurice. So I had a wee sneaky peek at the PR from Nils, and there is a comment that has that question. So I was ignoring that just now, and I was going to come back to it, but we will come back to it. So I haven't forgotten. If I forget, remind me. So if I do install debug dependencies and I select cake.tool, what it will do is it will give me the latest pre-release version of cake.tool, I think. So let's see what happens. So cake debug dependencies correctly installed globally. Okay, so he switched the messaging there as well, so that was good. Why a pre? Sorry, did I say pre-release? I meant non-pre-release. If I said pre-release, I apologize. It should give me the newest available non-pre-release version of cake.tool. So if I come over here and I do .NET tool list globally again, then we'll see they would get 38.5. So that's the newest non-pre-release version of Cake.tool, because there is a pre-release version of 1.0 available. Okay, so let's do the next test. And I think what's going to happen is that it will update it. So let's do this. So let's do, it should be in my history. So let's do uninstall it globally, and let's do .NET tool install Cake.tool version 0.38.4, and we're going to install that globally. So let's install an old version. And I think I understand why Nils is now saying I don't think so. So yes, no, you're probably right. Well, okay, yes, you're probably right. So let's see what it does. Let's test that out anyway. So let's do .NET tool list globally. So we've got 38.4, right? So okay, so there's two questions here then. The first question would be, what do we want it to do? And the second question is, what does it do? So let's do install debug dependencies and run Cake. Okay, so it told us that it's already installed globally. So it didn't update it. Am I okay with that? I think I'm actually okay with that though. I'm not sure if I want it to just blindly install the latest version. We might want it to. I was going to say we might want it to prompt to say that there was a newer version available, but I'm not sure if I even want that either. Because if I've taken the steps to install it globally, then I think I'm happy that the version I have installed globally is the version that I want. So I think I'm okay with that. Or show a warning. There isn't, or is there? Does .NET tool have the equivalent of an outdated? I don't think it does. Update. No, it doesn't, you see. So no, I think I'm okay with that. If this, the requirement is, in order to do debugging with Cake.tool, you have to install Cake.tool globally. That's just a given at the minute. So the fact that I have Cake.tool installed globally, albeit not the latest version, I think that's okay. And a no-op. Install, maybe. Install global version. No, there's not. So we wouldn't be able to do an installation test to get an output. So we would need to. So the way that I've done this in, so I've had to go down this path already with the Cake contrib Cake .NET tool module. So in here, Cake contrib. Oh, there's too many dots in there. Too many dots. The way that I ended up doing it in here, if I recall correctly, it was essentially I did a list and I parsed the output. Is it this one? And here, get installed tools, whether it's globally or not. It was a case of running .NET with the tool list and whether it's global or not, and then it was a case of getting the standard output from the, and then doing a regex across it to figure out what was installed. So it's not pretty. I mean, it's doable. We could do it, but I just don't know if it needs to be done in this case. The reason we had to do it with the .NET tool module is because it has the capability of specifying what version you want to have it installed with. So at that point, there is an expectation that you're going to have it with a specific version. With this one, it's just that the expectation is that it's met. So I think I'm okay with it not doing the version check. We could always do that as a an update to the functionality later. So with that dependency met, I should now be able to create myself a launch JSON file that controls bringing that up. So the way that I would have done that before is I would have pressed F5. So this is me debugging within a debug session. So what we have here still is a Cake Core CLR and a Cake Mono. So I think what we need to do here is provide an additional contributes into the package.json file so we can have another entry here. But in the absence of that, if I go here and do .vs code, and I go in here and say a new file called launch.json, if I say add configuration, then in here, oh, I thought I saw you do that work. Interesting. So Maurice has found, was Maurice? Yeah, it was. Let's bring this into the stream. So this is a .NET Global tool that tells me what .NET Global tools are outdated, I think. It might be handy to find out whether new versions of .NET Global tools currently installed in your machine is available. However, the .NET Global tool does not provide it. Yes, correct. We've just established that. So we could install globally this, and we can then run outdated. Okay, so this sounds like a tool I might want. So I'm gonna take the steps to install this. See what it does. Let's see what the output looks like. You can't quite see that, so let's pull this over here. So the version, toolpath. So we could give it a toolpath as well. Check on just one package, interesting, okay. Format, output format is either XML, JSON, or a table. Default is a table. Okay, so we could output it as a JSON file. That looks interesting. See you later, Manfred. Have a good evening. And we can include pre-release. Oh, to do. It hasn't got that part yet. Interesting. Okay. So in theory, if we were to then do, what was it, .NET tools outdated. So this should give us one back, or my Git version tools out of date as well. Oh, why did that? No, you see, I wouldn't want that. Include pre-release. No, you see, I wouldn't want that. What was it? It says it's out. It says it's had to do, but include pre-release. Wouldn't want that. Yeah, don't know. Don't know why that's showing up. Don't know. Useful though. Could potentially be something that we incorporate later. But for now, I think I'm okay with not having it. So what that does leave is the configurations. Now I thought I saw, Nils, that you were creating that, or that's, no, I know what that was. That was for this, wasn't it? So if I were to, having done that, see, no, that this, I'm confused now. So if I delete this and I delete this, if I click on debug task here, what is it going to do for me? So it's doing, I see. so this is going to give me, well, let's just step through it. So this is going to give me debugger config. This is going to give me .NET Cake.exe. Right, gotcha. So if I hit this, and that's fine. Okay, so that makes sense to me, I think. So if I come back to here, then okay, beautiful. And then if I go into here and look at settings, and I look at Cake, then I would have the option of altering the code lens, which would include the control over what it does. So this has got a null at the minute, so that then gives me the default, which is .NET Cake.exe, because I'm on Windows, but I have the ability to control that. Okay, so the part that we still need then, I think. Sorry, which part? You said, is it? I was saying lots of words. Which part? Shouldn't it still be the old PowerShell? I don't know. Would you expect it to be there? So if we go back over here, the default, where is that provided? That's in the package.json. So what does the doc say? That's a good question. We have a doc, and that says readme. So what are we searching here for? Oh, we're on Vim. Code lens. There. Code lens debug task program executable of the debug session, e.g. for debug type mono are okay. This is a complex object consisting of at least one property default and optional properties corresponding to values of OS platform. Default value is null. Yes. So that's right. The documentation is correct based on what we just saw. So I think we're good. So the default value in the settings is null, but then internally it gives this for non-Windows and this for Windows. The witch doctor says ooh-ee, ooh-ah-ah, ting-tang. That's a bit of a blast from the past, Murray. I thought you were too young for that sort of thing. I thought you would have been too young for that sort of shenanigans. Okay, so the part that's missing then, because so far this is looking like I'm gonna pull it in soon. I thought it was more than that. So I'll be 39 this year. 39. Are you? No, you're not as old as that, are you? Oh really? I had you younger than that. Huh. Me? Yeah, I'm 39. Is that good or bad? Not really. My wife tells me I'm old. Love it. I think I did know that, Maurice, but I also I'm not sure. No, I did know that, I think. But I'm terrible with. I don't even remember my own age sometimes. I'll be honest. That's why I have a wife to keep me on the straight and narrow, and kids to remind me. 42. See, I had you younger as well, Nils. I don't know why. maybe it's the avatars that I've seen for you. I had you younger. I honestly, where's the one that I've thought? I don't know. I didn't have you. I didn't have you older. I thought you were younger than me. Ah, you see. Anywho's right. So the one thing that I think is missing then is the the one thing I think we need to add is the additional entry in the package.json file for the contributes, which I believe. See, this package.json file is getting really big. I don't think it's in here. That's the Cake code lens configuration. That's all the bootstrappers. We can get rid of these a second. Let's make these a bit smaller. Cake.code symbols. It's here. It's the debuggers. But let's just finish off to make sure I'm in the right place. So further up here, we have task runner. And then that's the entire configuration object. So that's fine. So that we are where I thought we are. Then we have the commands, the snippets, and the breakpoints, and we should be near the top of the file. Yes, we are. Those are the activation events. I've started now. I'm just going to minimize all of these, get to a point where we're happy. So in the contributes, we have this debugger section, and what we will end up with is there's currently two. There is that one. So there's one for Cake Core CLR, and there's one for Cake.mono. So I think what we need is another one that is specifically for Cake.tool. So I'm going to make a horrendous assumption that the order of these is important, and I'm going to put the Cake.tool above the other one, right? So Cake debug script for, oh, I'm being told to stop. What have I done? Oh, did I change the wrong thing? I think the type that you're thinking of is this one. I think. So there's a type within the configuration. This type is for the debugger type, the overall type of the debugger. So it's not this one, that's a different one. So, okay, we're good. So let's minimize this a second. So this was Cake debug script, open bracket, close bracket for Cake Core CLR. So let's put this in as, let's use the same nomenclature that we use on the, I love that word, nomenclature. Let's use the same, let's keep Pascal happy if he's in the chat room. I see his name. Let's go to the documentation and let's make sure that we're in line with the name of the runners here. So we've got .NET Tool, Cake Runner for .NET Core, and Cake Runner for .NET Core. So we're not quite in line with that. So let's just do, let's call it .NET Tool. And we might change some of these to be .NET Core, so they're on the same page. Now this one here, well, that wants to be .NET Core 2. .NET Core. And then for this one, we currently have mono. I think that's okay. And well, we should make it the same. Let's make it a capital M there, do. Okay, so we've got mono, .NET Core, and .NET Tool. So we should have another .NET Tool in here. So this is going to be .NET Tool. This is going to be .NET Tool. So then what we want to do is then we want to decide how we're going to apply the defaults within the actual JSON file. So that's where I think we might have to start taking the defaults that we have in here. So what I think we want to do here is, now let's go back to here and let's go to this website and let's put this up to here. Let's have a wee sneaky peek at an example, hopefully. Oh, this platform, it doesn't. I did have an example of this, didn't I? If I go back to, I might have it over here. I think it's this one. I want to remember where I've been. I've been down this road before, and I ended up with this. So this is what I'm going to put into. Oh, is my video frozen? That's bad. Let me see if I can bring it back again. Huh. My video seems to be frozen in OBS, but I don't know whether it's frozen for you folks that are watching it. I'm going to work on the assumption that I'm not frozen. Same here, as in it is frozen. Blink twice. Why did that not work? Let me try doing this again. Huh. Let's switch it off again. Okay, so I'm gone now. You shouldn't see me. And let's go here. Oh. Oh, there we go. I'm back. There we go. Ooh. Okay, so what I was trying to say was, what I think I want to do is I want to put this in so that the default goes in with, rather than at the minute in the CodeLens debug task, it puts a null. But I think I want to provide the default. Well, you see, it should work the same, shouldn't it? So should I put null and then allow them to override it? So let's start there. So let's do that then. So let's start with program null, launch .NET Tool with the arguments that are don't use. I'm frozen again. What's going on? I don't understand what's happening with my camera tonight. I've just unplugged it. If all else fails, right, let's see if that comes back. Okay, so what you're saying is that Okay, so we will have to put it in. So let's do this then. So let's copy this and put this in here. So your PC wants to watch us. There's code in place. Okay, in which case let's not do that then. So the program by default is .NET-Cake, but if we're on a Windows machine, we will use .NET Cake exe. The args, what do we do for the args? Let's assume that now I may need to escape that in order for it to flow through. I've been down this route before with the workspace. Let's grab this guy. I think this is where I get confused because sometimes it has it and other times it doesn't. So let's leave it in. So we'll leave that like that. Workspace root, .NET tool, and then the program is going to be the same as what it was before, although it's got this in it. So let's grab this, copy, and let's replace this. There we go. The escaping is indeed a mess. Okay, so if we do that, and let's have a wee play. Let's kick off this. So we don't currently have a launch.json file, but if we go into build.cake and we hit F5, oh, hold on, I think it's still loading. Let's give it a second to finish loading. Activating extensions says that down behind me, you can't see it. So hopefully, if I hit, so that the code lenses are up now. So if I hit F5 now, you see, that's unfortunate. I wonder if that's alphabetical. That's unfortunate. So we have it now. We have the additional option, which is the cake.tool launch.json. So if I click on that, see, this happened before. I think it's broken, but I don't think it was me that broke it. I've seen that not work before, but instead, if I go into new folder and say VS Code, and then I come into here and say new file, launch.json. Let's leave it just at that. If I hit F5 now and I say cake.tool, does it then work? Doesn't work then either. So let's add an empty configuration and let's do F5 and say cake.tool. Then it still doesn't work either. Oh, I've gone again. My goodness. I really don't understand why this is playing up. But if I do add configuration from here and then say, and then you see they're in the order. No, they're not in the order I want there either. I wonder again if that's alphabetical. If I say .NET tool here, then we get what I want, which is .NET tool, launch, .NET Cake, program. Okay, so let's save that. And let's back into my build.cake and hit F5. Then it fails. Why does it fail? Dun, dun, dun. Errors occurred while analyzing the script. Exited with task. Why did that not work? Oh, because I don't have a build.cake. That's why. I would need to go into here and I would need to change this to a build.cake. That's fine. So it had a default. then hopefully it should work. Da-da. Huh. That ran to completion. Why did that not step into my... Oh, hold on. Am I sending out tweets that I shouldn't be? I did this last week. Oh, I did as well. There was... I'm going to delete this task. I ended up sending out tweets I didn't actually mean to. Because it ran to completion. Let's delete some of these. Don't actually want to do those tweets. So let's just take them out. So now we shouldn't. But that doesn't answer why it didn't step into here. So what have I done in my launch.json that means that it isn't being passed in? So back into here, hit F5 again. Oh, that might fail now because of... Oh, that's why. Because it wasn't running it. So it was doing exactly the right thing. So we want this to depend on Bob rather than on that. Then, so it was working before because the code lens was debugging specifically that task using specifically that file. But because I added a top level debug, it was just, it was doing exactly what it was told to. Then we get the breakpoint hit on F5. Good. Yes, Pascal, I did notice that. I apologize for that. Nils replied to it with 456, so it's all good. The no harm, no tweets were harmed in the making of this stream, so it's. I've removed that code now from build.cake. It won't happen again, I promise. Okay, so this now works. So in theory, was that the only thing I changed? Was it to make it build.cake? So there is an outstanding issue here where, for some reason, the creation of the configuration from the F5 menu when it first, that's not working for some reason. But like I say, I don't think that works in the current cake script either. That doesn't work in the current cake extension either. So I have, that's the extension host, sorry, so let's take this out. So this one over here, so I have cake installed, and what do I have? Do I have a launch.json in here? Let's just test this out on, so I'm going to delete this just temporarily, and if I hit F5 here, and I say cake.mono, then it doesn't actually create that. I noticed it the other day, but I don't understand for why. Because that to me is just using the built-in functionality. So as long as it's in the package.json file, there's not actually any code execution for putting that work in there. I wonder if there's anything in the who are all you? Diagnostics array? No idea. What's in the output from extensions? Let's try hitting F5 again and put in mono in. No. I don't really want to spend too long on this just now. I'd much rather get the I'd much rather get this put in, to be honest. So let's undo the launch.json change, and let's have a look at what I've done in my package.json. So in here we've added a new one that has similar defaults to all the other ones. and then we change this to say .NET Core. We change this to say .NET Core, and then we change this to have a capital mono so it matches the other one. And okay, so I think if you're okay, Nils, I'm going to put this, I'm going to add a commit into your branch and push this up, and then I'll tidy up maybe some of the comments that I saw in your PR, and we'll basically address the comments that I saw that you left in there. So this was a pull request for, which one was it for? So we said that this was for issues. Let's close off some of these. It's going to be too many. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. My internet's gone really slow all of a sudden. So we'd said that this was for 409, I believe. That's who you've targeted against. Nope. Well, who's... I garbled up your conventioning. Oh no, don't worry about it. So that was for added build script setting. So that was something different. I get you. So they were related to that one. That's okay. So this PR we're going to say is related to, we go back to the milestone, then does not support bootstrapping of .NET Core out of the box. So this one was related to the code lens, I think. If I remember this, the run task. So we didn't test that yet, but I think that should work now, shouldn't it? Let's go back over here and run this again. So what does the run task do? So let's close, let's delete this tools folder, and let's delete this, and let's say, let's click on the run code lens when it appears. So if we run task, what does it run using? It runs using the launch command, which is .NET Cake. Ah, yes, we did fix that. But it doesn't need the .NET Global tool. It doesn't need to be installed globally with the .NET. It doesn't need to be installed globally because it's just running .NET Cake. So I would have installed that locally. Right. Okay. So if I go back over here, then I think this one is really about the debug. So this PR is targeting 376. Let's go up here and edit this. 376. And let's link that as a linked issue to 376. And let's go into here and say GH376 add .NET tool debugger configuration, which can be added to an existing launch.js JSON file via the add configuration button. Okay, so I'm going to add that, and let's push that up so that I have it. And then if we start reviewing the PR, then there was a couple of things I think we need to maybe clean up. So this was a addition to the documentation to either install .NET Global Tool or alternatively download the Cake package into the tools folder. Fine. We spoke around the defaults, and this was doing exactly what we thought it was going to do, so that was good. So the package.json here, this is the default. So this is the part that you're controlling in the code lens section. So you set it to null, fine, and then you create this as a complex object that has this and all of these things, potential of all of those things, and then the debuggers. Oh, that's what I just added. So this was me adding in this part. So we added in that part along with the configuration snippets. Change that, change mono. Cool. So then we have a helper method being created, which is get platform settings value, which is being used here rather than there. To do, should we install something automagically? So this is when we are clicking on the debug task. Okay, so I'm not sure if we didn't test that part, so we should probably test out that part and walk through that. So if I do .NET, he really is a cake boss. .NET tool, uninstall cake.tool globally. Okay, so uninstall .NET Cake globally. So if I come over here and I hit F5, so the question that Nils has put in there is, I think, if I don't have, let's tidy that up as well, so I don't do that each time. Let's delete that, and then let's delete that. Delete that. That's a separate add-in. Don't need to worry about that. Delete. Delete. Okay. There was an installation at that line. Oh, hold on. Did I read that wrong? Oh, there. Hold on. Well, let me see. Okay, let me see if this is doing what I think it's doing then. So if I come here and I click debug task, my question is, what happens? Program does not exist. But that's because we don't have .NET Cake installed globally. So the question here is, should it install? If it doesn't exist, should it install it? Oh, sorry, there was some installation at that line. So what do we expect? If we show this code lens, then I think it should do something automagically. So let's copy this and go over here. And let's see what this does. So let's go over here. So what does this do? then then it'll prompt us. I think I like that. I think I like it going down that code path and then it being prompted. But my question is, will that work? Let's try it. Let's see what it does. So I'm over here. How much time have we got left? But it will prompt always. Let's like always. Okay, let's test it anyway. So if I debug it, I'm going to get prompted, and I'm going to click cake.tool. So then behind the scenes, it's globally installing Cake. It's then going to execute that debug task, and it's going to hit my breakpoint, I think. Run in, install globally, have at it, stop my breakpoint. Hit my breakpoint. Look at that. Okay, but if I do that again, click on my debug task, it's going to prompt. I think I want it. I think when I say want, I think what I would like it to do is I would like it to check if it's not available. But then it opens up lots of questions. I.e., if it finds cake.tool installed, should it use it or should it prompt for the cake.core CLR? Or remember the last decision, yeah. I don't dislike that one. But there already is detection logic. So how would I mean, I would want it to just work. I mean, like I say, we show these code lenses by default. So, if they're there by default, they should work out of the box. So, out of the box, we're going to use cake.tool going forward. So it should default to using those. Can be configured in the package.json file to override that. But if cake.tool is not installed, it should maybe check to see if there is a cake.core CLR in the tools folder. If it doesn't find either, okay, so we're clicking on this the first time. If the cake.tool file isn't installed, it should check to see if the cake.core CLR package is there. And if it's not, it should install cake.tool. If cake.tool is installed globally, it should use that. If cake.tool is not installed and cake.core CLR is there, it should use that. I think those are the main workflows. I didn't even notice that spelling mistake until you pointed it out. I think I just made the word up based on the outside letters. So for now, okay, so I'm not going to... Let's stop this and go back to here. I'm going to undo that change because that's a valid question. But I think I might split that into separate work. I would like to get this merged so that we have it, and then we can come back and answer that question. So we'll have a follow-up issue around that. So this is still a valid question. Otherwise, happy. We're using that helper method again. We are using a typed property, a typed object rather than any, which is always good. this by default, that's fine. I'm happy with that. And then we're grabbing the program, or we're not grabbing the program, we're adding the program as program, which is coming from here. Gotcha. Then we are, oh, you said you had to remove this in order to get it to work, didn't you? The escaping of the task name. I remember you mentioning that. There, that's just using that. Happy with that. This is where our selection's happening. So selection is we pick it. If there's no selection, we just return. Then we specify a constant that says is cake tool based on what was selected. The result is a way to either install cake tool or install the cake debug, which is the cake core CLR. Messages are then contingent on those things as well. Like it, cake tool is already installed globally, already installed, error, like it. And then we've just used those messages in here, makes sense. Same there, like it. I install result, installed device, that's just setting up an interface for that, like it. Install cake tool. So what this is doing, this is returning a promise. New cake tool, which is defined down here. So in here, we are then checking to see if it's installed. If it's not, if it is installed, just return. If it's not, then run the install. Like it, seen that in action, makes sense to me. Do we need to check? So this is still a valid question as well, but I think that will be a follow-up issue. So I think we should take this part out, and so let's grab this and let's create a new issue. Let's paste what I've got in here. When installing .NET Global Tool, should we, let's ask the question, when installing .NET Global Tool, check if newer version exists and prompt for installation. So based on conversation during stream on, what's the date today? 23rd of the 11th, 2020. That's non-ambiguous, that's fine. So I'm going to say that this would be an improvement, but I'm not going to assign that milestone because, well, we don't want a milestone. Why? Well, I'm going to add it, but I'm going to take it off that milestone because we don't want it. So I'm going to take this out of here. There we go. Okay, so this part, if we go over here and we do a wee search for this, I'm going to remove this comment because we'll come back to it with this issue. Fine. So in here, we are spawning a new process that is .NET, passing in tool list global. Found text.layer index of if found returned. Oh, I see. So basically you're just looking for the output that is this one here. Okay. I mean, it would have been nicer if .NET Tool gave us some better indication of that, but I mean, this is perfectly fine. On close was all found. install, it's just spawning .NET tool with that. That's fine to me as well. Happy days. Extension settings, my platform setting, interface launch there. I launch, so again, not making it a string, but using that. And that was extends the iPlatform settings. That has gotcha. And then get configuration cake as that. From that, get the task runner gets code lens because of the default of. Obviously, we've just abstracted some of this. Gotcha. Gotcha. I've seen all of this in action, so I'm happy with this. Okay. To do is a selection. What's this? Is a selection core CLR global tool needed? So that is when we install debug. So this one, oh, we didn't exercise this one. So what does this do? That's the install cake command. So that's the top level one, isn't it? That's one of the other commands. Let's exercise this guy. That's the wrong one. I put a breakpoint there. Then I think this is from, is it this one? I think it's that one. You see, it's here. Do you want to install? I think it's here. Do you want to install dependencies needed for debugging your script? Then if we install debug is true, then we come into here. I think maybe what we need there then is, what do you want to install? So if the answer yes, because at the minute I think this is going to install Cake Core CLR. Really didn't like that, did it? Cannot read property tools of undefined. Error encountered. Failed to download. Ooh. Lots of things broke there. Okay. Well, let's come back to here, because what you're saying is potentially there's a couple of code paths we might need to test out a little bit more. Install IntelliSense support. That just gives me Cake Bakery, I think. Yeah, so that one works fine. Happy with that one. Let's go back and do the install Cake one. That'll just do build.cake, so that one, yeah, that one works. Install Bootstrapper, it's this one. Yes, because Bakery by itself will look for things installed in the right place. So it doesn't need to have, it doesn't need for the extension to do it. But this one, build.cake, yes, I want to install the bootstrappers. Yes, I want to do the cake.config. Yes, I want to do that. cannot read property tools of undefined. So there's a problem there. But is it also downloading stuff, or did it die? What's this guy doing? Oh, there is. Okay. So I think this question is valid. I think we do need to do something there. So we may need to address that one. So I'm going to leave this one in here, because I think we do need to fix this one before we would be able to ship. So let's leave this question in, and I'm going to say viewed, and I'm going to say that this looks good to me. Right. And I'm going to say merge, because I want to get it in. And then here, I'm going to say, oh, you're working today. That wasn't working last week. Nils, thank you very much for getting this added. Comment. So what we can say is, so that's 308. Let's come back to that. So that was 376. There's a couple of things we still need to do. Yeah. So let's do, so there's a couple of things we might need to look at. So let's, three, oh, 8. Ah, okay. Well, I think we should fix that then. So let's maybe figure out what that is then. Lots of words. Oh, let's see if we can't fix this, and we'll label this as a bug. Okay. This came up during testing of the overall extension on the Twitch stream on 23rd 11th 2020, and hopefully this will be addressed for the, let's put that in. Okay. What are you saying? Because this one seemed applicable as well. Debug task code lens doesn't work. Created an empty cake solution. Tried clicking on debug task inside build.cake and then got the error. So I think this will be fixed once we fix the actual installation. I think. So we've got a, let's do this again. So close you, close you. So if we do this one, and we still don't have, oh, we did, it snuck it in. Oh, when did that happen? So right now, I got a breakpoint or something. It's not letting me click that for some reason. If I come back to here and I say F5 again, we know that this is going to be broken, right? So we need to fix that. So that part we need to fix. Or is that now going to... I've lost my train of thought now. I click debug task. It's going to complain. Right, so that we need to fix. So that is on the... So that one we are going to pull in. So that one is essentially the bug that we've got just now. So we'll fix that as we're going. Good, like it. And then does not support bootstrapping. Which one was this one? So this one is now, this was the one that was on the run task. So that does work, assuming you have the tool installed locally. So this will run because .NET Cake's there. But can we make that assumption? Oh no, it's not there. For the same reason. Okay, so that one is still problematic as well. So this one still exists. So there's some work to do though on that one. So if we fix this one, and we fix this one, and we fix this one, then we can ship. How does that sound? I think, what's this one from Thomas? This error. Seems that this commit that broke it. This. So I think this is fixed. Error running complete cake script. Yeah, this was fixed. I'm going to say that I believe that this has now been addressed. Thanks for bringing this up. Comment. If you configure the Conelight program to be hero-nils.exe, what would be installed then? Well, I don't know. But let me make sure that we're on the same page. So let me just close out some of these. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's get rid of some of these breakpoints. So here, this is me running Cake extension out of the box. Haven't changed anything. So out of the box, I've got both a run task and a debug task. So if I click on run task, it's going to fail because it's attempting to run .NET Cake and it's not there. If I click on debug task, it's going to suffer essentially the same fate, a slightly different error, right? So out of the box, both of these things are broken. Now, I can fix one of those by following the recommended approach. So if I were to do .NET new tool manifest, is that what it is? Yeah. and then I do, come on terminal, then I do .NET tool install cake.tool. So this is me following the guidance. Then I've got an entry in here. So then if I come back to here and then I click run task, that will now work, right? Happy days. However, I come over here and I click on this out of the box, then that's still going to break because the run task works because of the installation of the local tool, but debug task requires the installation of the global tool. So I guess my question is, how should we handle these things? Because even if we go over here and we, oh, that's not the folder I wanted. What folder is this? This is find in folder. No, that's not the button I wanted either. The button I want is reveal in File Explorer. Then if I come in here and remove that, then this is now broken, right? Yes. And over here, if I run list global, it's still not there. But if I do that, .NET tool install cake.tool global, then the debug task would work, but the local one wouldn't, or the run wouldn't. So debug will now work, he says. So that works, but then the run task is still broken. So what is the lesser of two evils? If the debug task has a hard requirement on the .NET Global tool being installed globally, should we not make the run task use the global installation by default as well? And should we have the check on executing both of these code lenses as to whether .NET Global tool is installed globally? Thoughts? Does that make sense? I know that's a kind of a change away from where we've got to just now, but I'm also wondering whether that makes the most sense. Because, like I say, debug task needs it installed globally. The run task can work with a local one, but it's also not. Yeah, I think I'd want them both installed globally. I would think I'd want them to default to using the global installation of .NET Tool. And then the same kind of goes for the installation of Cake. So if I were to install to Workspace, I think I would want another prompt that says here, do you want to install dependencies needed for debugging? Yes. Then we ask, is it a cake.tool or is it a cake.core CLR? And for code lens, we're correct. Yes. Yes. So if I say yes here, where is that error actually coming from? That dot tools. Let's play it again. Sure. Oh, didn't happen that time. but it didn't happen there. I'm going to take that breakpoint off. Weird. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. Just a message come through. I don't know what I did. I really don't. I don't understand why it works sometimes but not the others. Delete it again. Install workspace. So I said that, I said that, I said that, and I said that. See, it worked that time, and it put my tools folder there. But it's bizarre though. So it is defaulting to downloading Kit Core CLR. So that there would need to be a switch there. But why does it work sometimes and not the next? Delete. Was it the breakpoint? I wonder. Install the workspace. Yes, 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 yes. See, that's weird as well. Because it's prompting me to there's some sort of race condition going on because that folder was empty, but now it's prompting me to overwrite it. And it hasn't created the tools folder this time. So there's some sort of race condition going on in that code path. One more time. Install a workspace. Yes. 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 See, I don't. And then it's not creating the tools folder. But then the next time it works. Okay. Try not creating the config file. Yes. Yes. No. No. Weirdness. I wonder if there's a promise it's not being correctly awaited or something. I mean, I haven't personally used that command in a long time. I remember it being created, but I wonder if there's something not being awaited correctly. Awaited is the wrong term, but you know what I mean. It's venable. It's not been a vend correctly. I don't know. I think you know what I mean. But okay, so there's a couple of code paths we need to exercise a little bit more, but there is one promise. Indeed, indeed. So I thought I did see a then on promise.all. Does that contain them all? So results.push, results.push. But then I guess it's depending on what it's doing. There's a then there, and there, and I need to dig into this a little bit more. That's not really a job for 15 minutes out. So yeah. Anyway, kind of coming to the end, I think. But I think we've made some progress. I like to think we've made some progress. What change have I got here? That was. Yeah, so we created an issue for that one, so that was fine. Although, did I? Which one was this one? This one was the. Do we need to check Yes, I did create an issue for that, but for some reason I haven't put it into the. Okay. Just replying to a Slack message while I remember. Okay, so the next kind of question I would have then. So Nils, so that we're not stepping on each other's toes, are you in a position to look into some of these in this week, or what's your kind of availability to have a play with this? I'll wait for a response on that. He's maybe run away. What's your availability for doing free work on an open source project for some random Scotsman? One thing. Okay, cool. So, if I start attacking one of them, I will let you know on a comment that I'm playing with it, and maybe vice versa. One thing that I did do over the weekend was I updated. I don't know if you saw. You maybe saw it coming through, Nils. I did an update to the recipe that we're using. So this was previously at version 2.1, I think. So I added a new version, which was 0.30, which allowed the switching to use cake.tool to run the build of this extension. So there was a couple of things that were, it basically wasn't working on my Mac. The previous build for this VS Code extension was using Cake 32.1, I think. Now on the latest Mono on Mac, it just doesn't run it. It breaks. So I changed the internals of the Cake VS Code recipe to update all of the packages and add-ins and extensions and things that it uses, so that I could then bring it into this project and then switch to a much simpler bootstrapper that's literally just run the .NET Tool Store and then run Cake. What I did then try and do is I then tried to pin to the latest version of Cake, the pre-release, so that I could remove this line. But there's something fishy going on in there that I need to fix, because that doesn't work. So pinning to the latest version of the pre-release causes a null reference exception within the code base that I haven't dug into yet. But it's something to do with, is it in here? It's something to do with this extension method. So between 0.38.5 and the release, then something's changed in the configuration. Now I suspect it's because we moved to use Spectre CLI, and this extension method just doesn't work anymore. So I'll need to speak to Patrick on the team to figure out what I need to change here to make it work, because it doesn't work anymore. So that's must be one of the breaking changes. You're the cake. I'm going to try, but I wonder if Pascal, are you still on? there is some form of breaking change in, or maybe another breaking change that we may need to document in the inner workings of the cake configuration object. So, like I say, this fails. It falls over. Working code on 038.5 falls over when you move to the RC version of Cake. So something in here, like I say, I haven't dug into it yet, and I'm not going to do it tonight because I'm getting ready to close down for the night, but I just thought I'd mention it while you're here, that there's a breaking change in here that we either need to document or we need to address before we move forward. Nils just had, I also have code coverage on my list, which is kind of not working at all, and also I have clearing up of the dependencies, which depends on, so there's an issue here then, is there? Let me bring this up into the stream. Let me bring this up and into here. False positive on INI. INI is listed a false positive along with interesting. Okay. Dependency check. A lot of stuff here. Oh, he's got back to you already. I wish all the issues created were as thorough as yours. Look at that. That's a nice comment. I'm going to give him a thumbs up for that one. There we go. So the thing is, we're using Babel to parse TypeScript. What it is as of turn. If I remove a bug in Babel. Oh, interesting. Okay. A temporary solution for you would be to change your code to. It would seem that using as is the preferred way because casting it as a generic T is not available for TSX files. The code base is a bit older and I'm hesitant to clean it up all at once. Could I remove the JSX plugin via configuration? Can't do anything with configure it. Sounds good. Who's this guy? Is that Rumpel? So he's in Paris. Member of TechCheck. Cool. I'm not even going to try and butcher his name. I'm just going to say Rumpel. Perfect. Okay, cool. I will let me. Where's the button that I need? Oh, it's at the top. I'm going to put my subscribe on that so I can see it. And I'm going to also give a thumbs up here. Okay, cool. So as a recap for tonight, so that's fun. So we've currently been watching the Once Upon a Time series on Disney Plus. I don't know if you've watched it or anything like that. It's very, very good. But Rumpelstiltskin is one of the main characters in that. So is that the name? So it's the name of this person. The way I pronounced it was Rumpel. That's not his name, but that's how I pronounce his GitHub username. But then Maurice pointed out that it's similar to Rumpelstiltskin, and that led me into the Once Upon a Time season that I've been watching. It's very, very good. That would be Rumpelstiltskin. Is that? I don't know. I don't know if that's. I would pronounce it Rumpelstiltskin, but it could be that that's the German version. I don't know. Okay. Anyway, as a recap, so we're just away to start the 7th and the final season. So we're getting close. We watched the first season years ago, and then whenever we were watching it, it stopped playing it. But then we found out it was on Disney Plus, and we bought Disney Plus for the kids. And since then, we've been watching or catching up with Once Upon a Time on Disney Plus. So it's definitely worth watching. There's 7 seasons. It's all about fairy tales, but the intermingling of fairy tales, and there's this whole narrative of son and a mother coming together. It's really quite good. Definitely worth a watch. And for the kids, yes, absolutely. The so a quick recap on tonight. We were working on the Cake VS Code extension. We reviewed a PR from Nils for getting some required functionality into the extension. That, for the most part, that went quite smoothly. We tested it out quite a bit. There's a few edge cases that we need to handle, and we've created issues to track those. So we'll look at those hopefully through the week, and maybes we'll see if we can get somewhere where we can ship it. I would really like to get this out the door because there's other things that I would like to play with on this session on a Monday night. So I'd really like to get this finished and shipped, and that would set it up quite nicely for the Cake 1.0 release, which is coming very, very soon. I know, Pascal, that you didn't get a response to the question that you raised in Slack from anyone else in the team, so I don't know what's going to happen there, but maybe just you and I'll just ship it. I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's all I have. So thank you to everyone who came on the stream. I do appreciate it. Thank you for the interaction. It's always good having some folks on the Monday night here to join in and do some coding. So I do appreciate it. But for now, I'm going to say farewell. Remember, Twitch stream tomorrow evening for Chocolate Software to find out about the upcoming 12 days of Chocolatey. I think it's now gone live. So if you go to it's actually just come online since I've been here, so maybe let's just bring it up at the end of the stream. So there is an event now. Oh, look at this. Steph's been busy. So Steph's now got 12 days of Chocolatey. If we click on learn more, this now comes up as a thing here. 12 days of Chocolatey. 12 days, one topic, 1 hour each day. Live streamed on all of your favorite platforms, so you'll be able to watch it on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, and or Facebook. We're gonna have pretty much everyone in the team, or all the kind of development focused folks. So Rob, Paul, myself, Stevie, Adil, and Joel will all be doing sessions. Keynote from Rob on the first day. Redefining Chocolatey is Adil and Rob. This is the Chocolatey webinar that myself and Joel are doing. So it's kind of a it's going to be it's not a live stream is what I'm getting at. So that's a separate registration for that one. That's the plan. Yeah, I'm on there. So I'm going to do Chocolatey in the organizations. Adil's doing then one on building packages, open source and Chocolatey for business. Stevie's doing one on his QDE environment and getting that up and running. The CCM module. So there's a new PowerShell module. I don't know if you played with it yet, Maurice. There's a new PowerShell module called Choco CCM that allows you to interact with the CCM API. Chocolatey and Ansible together. So that'll be Paul and Adil that's doing that one. Oh, that's the separate registration required for that one. That's a separate webinar as well. Chocolatey integrations. So this is like some of these are open forum discussions as well. So it's really just the team all getting around the table basically and answering and speaking together about the topic and then answering any questions that come in. Self-service anywhere. Paul's doing a talk. That one's to be announced, and then the final Q&A wrap up. So that's all the information. It's all up there. Go out and have a look. I'll grab this and put it into the chat as well. So there'll be a session tomorrow, I believe, to just go over and talk about this. So yeah, that's all I have. Feel free to ask any questions that you have. But for now, I'm going to say thank you very much and have a good night. Bye-bye.